Uh, Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be in Istanbul, one of my favorite cities. It's working, right? The microphone? Yeah. One of my favorite cities in the world. So, how do you pronounce this? I need some help. Salam. Good. Salam. Okay, I'm going to start with the bad news first. I don't have any joysticks. I don't have PS4s or PS5s, sorry. And I don't have Bezier curves either. And and or things that move in the screen. There's 2 or 3 short videos. So apologies. And by the way, I thought your presentation was amazing, Mark. It's like whenever I see the coding thing, I think, oh my God, my work is so boring in comparison. It's a hard act to follow. So I'm gonna go straight to it. I was born in a city in northern Italy called Trieste, and these were my Legos as a kid. I used to spend hours and hours in this room. Here, this was my father's printing press and publishing house as well. So in that room there, I think I have a highlight in the next slide. That's where I used to play with the Legos in there. This is the publishing house in the 50s, in the 1950s. And that's my father on the left, this guy. And that's was the director of the printing press. And the publishing house, it ran in the family, so my father inherited from his father and, in turn from his father. And the publishing house was, at that time, specialized in printing art catalogs for all sorts of people. A big client was Gallimard, the French publishing house. But my father's dream at the time was to publish children books, something he managed to do a few years later, thanks to this book that he discovered by pure chance in Slovenia, where we actually spent a lot of our holidays when it was Yugoslavia back in the days. And it's a great title. I love this. I love long titles in general. How the Mouse Was Hit on the Head by a Stone and So Discovered the World, designed by Herb Luebelin. And this is one of the very first, so basically, to cut a long story short, that book, the Mouse book, he tracked down the illustrator called Etienne de Lesserre, went to Switzerland to meet him, and what was initially a 30-minute long meeting became a lifetime friendship of friends, but also professional relationship that lasted his entire life. This is one of the first books he published, Il Pollicino, and it was originally a French edition published by a French publishing house, co-founded by François-Louis Vidal. And I love this. You can read it, I won't read it. But basically, it really encapsulates what my father tried to do, which is publish children books specialized in just really high quality, accessible children's books where the concept, the typography, the illustrations, everything works together in one cohesive whole. These are some of the other books. He published lots of children's books, so we had a really, really amazing childhood. These were my absolute favorites. This is Etienne de Lesserre, who drew the Mouse book that I just showed. I don't have any words for these books. Etienne de Lesserre is, and also an amazing person. One more page of Etienne looking at, Yok Yok looking at a butterfly or something. So the good news for my sister and I is that we traveled all across Europe with my father in this VW camper van during holidays to meet the illustrators whose books my father printed, edited, published, etc. And this is called Pisello. In Italian, it means green pea. And so we jumped onto the green pea and traveled all over the place. And lucky us, we went to Lausanne, where Etienne was living at the time. He's in Canada now. I moved there a long time ago. And guess what? We get to Etienne's studio, and I see Yok Yok, and Etienne drawing Yok Yok in front of my eyes. And I was a little girl, just like, I don't know how little I was, little. And seeing this was it really was like, oh my God, like, wow. It's like magic does exist after all. So of course, with all these things inspired me to pick up drawing at an early age. You can spot me on the picture looking very concentrated. It's a cross between concentrated and desperate, because drawing was really not my cup of tea. As I soon realized, this was, I think it's the only picture I have from, 1980. So I was 8 years old. This is my biggest masterpiece. It doesn't get any better than that. So, but I became more interested in words and stories and storytelling. So I went on to study literature in the United States. And when, in one holiday, I was in Spain, and I discovered this magazine in a friend's house, stacks and stacks of it. And I'm like, what is that? And I was studying literature. So where everything looks very boring, size 8/10 times New Roman, or whatever. So there was nothing exciting about it. The stories were amazing, but the way it looks was quite boring. And then I opened this magazine, and when I see the covers, it's like, wow. But the spreads inside and the way in which the letters and the images brought the content to life was, oh my, like the yuck moment, like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing all these years studying boring literature? It's like when you can actually do stuff like that. And that's when I said, okay, whatever this is, I want to do the rest of my life. And I never looked back. So I went to art college, and this was one of my tutors, Phil Baines, who sadly passed away not so long ago. And his work really blew my mind. He did these kind of things, and just the expressiveness of the posters and what he was able to do with typography was incredible. Also very classic typefaces, Baskerville, Gill Sans, and just the way in which he uses them. That's it's not about, for me, not so much about which typeface we use, but how we use it. That really makes a big difference. Phil, interestingly, was studying to be a priest for many years, so he was in turn very influenced by ecclesiastical manuscripts, which he brought into a lot of his work. And what he taught us students is the importance of looking back in history and appreciate the art of letter forms. And at the time, I was, as a young student, you're kind of more interested in the future, not so much in, the past or what happened ages ago, because that is boring stuff. And he was really influential to all of us, to all of us students. And then when I kept on studying, because I really liked this design thing, I went and studied at the Royal College with Alan Kitching, who was one of my tutors there, and I learned about letterpress, like the real thing, not composing. With my Legos, it was kind of fun, but it was just playtime, whereas this was the real thing. And as many of you know, letterpress is, it's all about restrictions. It's almost the opposite of you have to learn how to work within set parameters. So I was fascinated by the restrictions and how can you actually do anything interesting with all these restrictions, which we do need as as graphic designers. As you can probably tell by now, I'm a graphic designer. I'm not a typographer. So I wanted to do a project that reflected how restrictions and how we can use restrictions. They're not straitjackets, but rather the opposite. And restrictions can be used as springboards for the imagination. So together with a friend, this was my graduating project at the Royal College of Art. We made a list of publications that changed the history of editorial design. So the Gutenberg Bible, the Guardian, these were from different eras. We asked Phil Baines and Robin Kinross and a whole bunch of people a lot more smarter than us, what they thought as well, and we consulted with people. Yancey called Zeno Typography, Ways of Seeing, and Twen Magazine by Willie Fleckhaus, and there's a few others. So what we did was very, very, very simple. This is a page from Twen, and we figured out the grids, and we extracted the grid, so we made the invisible visible, And then we slapped the grid on a notepad. This is a tier of sheet notepad with a sticker on it with the details of the design, the designer's name, the name of the publication and the year in which it was published. This is the series at real size, so 100%. And what it was, it became very successful in our small design industry. We printed 5,000 during the degree show. It was sold out in a day, which is a lot, and it's thanks to this project I was able to start my own studio in Barcelona years ago. So what the project was about is how with restrictions you can make incredibly varied and different and very surprising work. So I'm really interested in restrictions, but also in how can we do more with less. That's like a kind of, if I had to summarize what I do in 3 words, I guess it would be, well, I try as hard as I can to do more with less. Not because I'm into minimalism or anything like that, but we live in a very noisy world. There's enough garbage out there in lots of ways. And I think part of our job is to just keep it simple. And keeping things simple is actually a very hard thing to do. There's a lot of men with white beards in my presentation. I don't have PS consoles, but I do have men with white beards, okay? This is Derek Birdsall, one of my design heroes. I went and met him as a student, and then as I was a bit older as well. It was great to go meet him because his wife prepared these amazing scones here. So I just went for the scones really, and we chatted, and then I interviewed him. And anyway, he designed one of my favorite book collections of all times. He started with the spines using railroad Gothic. And he knew it was going to be a very vast collection. So starting with the spines is kind of a weird, you normally start with the covers, right? But so using Railroad Gothic and figuring out the system, what is the longest title, what is the shortest title, etc. What I love about, these were the 3 first titles. It was over 1,000 titles that were published in the collection. And it was through this that he decided, okay, words are going to be the house style of this entire collection. Words in a very limited color palette. And he then commissioned lots of other designers to do it. And he said, you just have to use white background, railroad Gothic, keep them typographic, and that's it. Do anything else you want. So again, restrictions. But within these restrictions, I mean, the amount that it's so diverse and so playful and so instantly recognizable, even in today's Amazon kind of, formats in tiny, things that we have, books that we buy online. And yeah, I love it. I really do. I collect these books, and whenever I see one online, I need to get one. And it's a great example of storytelling with just words and one single typeface. These are influences, a bunch of influences. I'm quickly going to whiz through these that have been really formative, and that kind of, I think, I refer back to these examples I'm showing every day as I work. Not every day, but they're here, like engraved in my mind, and I keep them as references of ways of thinking about design. Ways of seeing has been 1972. A lot of great things happened in 1972. And you're going to see, actually, coincidentally, a lot of them are from 1972. The design has remained unchanged since then, which is incredible in book design. It's the insides of the book have been, unchanged. So this was, a lot of you might know this book. It was originally a TV series, and the design was to translate what a TV series feels, and because you look and hear at the same time, how do you translate that into book design? So it was a complicated exercise. So the text and it's Universe 55, but the way in which the text is placed with those big indents is all, and every design decision is informed by this translation of the TV series. So for example, this image here, this is a landscape of a cornfield with birds flying out of it. Look at it for a moment, then turn the page. So you turn the page, And then you see this is the last picture Van Gogh painted before he killed himself. So the silence it creates, it's really incredible. You know, just buy one. If you don't know the book, go and get yourself one, because it's amazing. Another big inspiration, Robert Massin, whom I met in China years and years ago. And I remember meeting him and thinking, oh my God, can I touch you? Because I was such a big fan of have been, still am, of his amazing work. And the Bald Soprano, the Cantatrice Chauve, where it's similar, completely different to the Ways of Seeing, because he tried to translate theater and how actors intonate and how they move on the stage, where they are placed, etc. How do you translate into book format? And he did this in many different ways. One of them is, and perhaps the most famous one, by giving each character in the play a different typeface. So one of them speaks in Garamond, the other one speaks in monotype, grotesque, and they have different typefaces. There's so much to say about this. I can't talk more about this today, unfortunately, but it's incredible. I like very simple ideas. This is more modern. David Pearson, for Walter Benjamin, the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction. This is a cover. It's not book spines, it's a cover made with book spines. It's just perfect. You know, it's one of those ideas you see and you think, oh fuck, why didn't I think of that? John McConnell, Napoli poster. I had to call him and say, John, can I have one of your posters? Because it speaks for itself. But just when type does the talking, I really, really love that. This book is a tiny, tiny book. It's passport size, like this. Unforgettable images that changed our lives. And what I love about it is that if you open it, the design is not great. The way in which it's made it's not a great book in terms of the craft, but it's a great idea. Again, restrictions. It's actually empty. So the Olympic symbols. It's in chronological order. The Olympic Games. You can read it, right? Charlie Chaplin, The Tramp. I can't read it, but you can probably. McDonald's Golden Arches and Campbell's Soup Can. So these iconic, you don't even have to see you just read the caption and you can see the images, and it reminds us of the important, how ingrained these images are in our sociological psyche. So it's an incredible exercise. And I said a mistake because he didn't have the money to pay for, a mistake more or less, to pay for it initially was going to have images, but because he couldn't afford Peter to pay the images, it became this, and it's a lot better than it actually, if it did have the images. On the other side of the spectrum is Pointed, which is, God, when I travel to faraway countries, sometimes I forget this and I think, I left it at home. It's so useful. And when you travel to a country whose language you don't speak, you never know when you might need ice, toothpaste, and this, and it is just categorized, or a rabbit. You just never know, and you just point to stuff. I love it because it's communication understandable by everyone. There's no letters, no nothing. It's just for me, this is what graphic design is really all about. Another similar but different thing, François Truffaut, Fahrenheit 451. Some of you might know the book. In case you don't, it's a totalitarian society where reading and letters are banned. 451 is the temperature in which paper burns. And these are the title credits.
An Enterprise Vineyard production. Oscar Werner, Julie Christie in Fahrenheit 451. Co-starring Cyril Cusack, Anton Diffring, Jeremy Spencer, B. Duffel, Alex Scott. Screenplay by Francois Truffaut and Jean-Louis Richard, from a novel by Ray Bradbury. Music by Bernard Herrmann. Director of photography Nicholas Roeg. Color by Technicolor. Art director Sid Kane. Production and costume design consultant Tony Woolton. Film editor Tom Noble. Associate producer Mickey Delamar. Produced by Louis M. Allen. Directed by Francois Truffaut.
Yeah, and this was God, what year was it? In 1966. I mean, it's incredible because it's so, I love it, and it's timeless. It's still, even if it came out today, it would be like, oh, wow, it's just such a good idea. No letters, complete absence of typography. Sorry, sorry. You can, kick me out of here. Another incredible reference, Bruno Munari, the supplement to the Italian language, because I'm Italian, half Spanish, gesticulate a lot, ma che cazzo, sorry, ma che cazzo is this one, but what, and yeah, it kind of just speaks for itself. Oh, I had an idea. What are you saying? And then last one, I'm going to show Joan Brossa, the incredible Catalan poet / artist / designer. When I lived in Barcelona for 10 years, I think, and I didn't know his work until I discovered it, and I fell in love, with all of his work. So another big reference. If you don't know his work, you should look him up. Oh, and this is Typographer's Paradise. This is El Parque del Velódromo in Barcelona, made with these giant, letters and parentheses, and you can go and sit on them. You can go and sit on a question mark. This is probably where I would sit a lot of the time, or these giant commas or semicolons. Amazing place. Okay, just a couple projects. If I run over time, please, let me know, because. Yeah? No. Okay. No, I thought. So. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. I have 6 projects. I think I'm gonna have to. 10. Okay. Good. 10 minutes. Right. So. AGI Open 2011. AGI is this international design conference, and in 2011 it was celebrated in Barcelona. We organized it together with the AGI Spain team. It was, I think, 6, 7 of us organizing the thing, and what we did was rescue one of the most interesting typographic experiments that happened in probably the history of Spanish typography, and certainly Catalan typography. Some of you might know it. Superveloz was a type system conceived as a response to the economic recession after the Spanish Civil War in the 1940s. So, as you can see, it was done in lead type, and because of the lack of resources existing, because of the war, the printers they couldn't buy machinery. There was a general lack of resources. So this was developed as a way to push through that and to give the tools to printers so that they could print their own alphabets, their own logotypes, their own even illustrations. And it was made by Joan Trochut, who's the grandfather of Alex Trochut, an incredible lettering artist and designer from Barcelona that some of you might know. It's a beautiful visual language, but but also incredibly practical. And so it's made with, it's not really letters, it's parts of letters or glyphs, and you just combine them together, and by combining them together, you can create, this is how it works, actually. You can create all sorts of different, it's like endless varieties of all sorts of things, and this was 1940s. It's incredible, Thank you, Phil Baines, for making us look into the past, because you see these things and you think, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So the thing is, how can we use this and create an identity that is not too pastiche, or to, because it's also very characteristic. It has a lot of personality. So how can we use this to create something exciting that feels fresh and modern and contemporary? So what we did is just use the letters, paired it with, I think this is Helvetic or Accidents Grotesque. Don't kill me. I can't remember which one it was. Because the designers talking were quite well known, we just kept the initials, and we thought that would be enough. So, a very stripped back identity where the letters are actually the stars of the show, and color coding for each different category of press and sponsors, etc. Some of the posters, and I can whiz through this. And for the guides, one was BCN for Barcelona, and these were little booklets we organized. Hats off to you, Onur, because I know how complicated it is to, to set up these things, and also you've done it for such a long time. And for the Congress, same thing. So anyway, that was our first project. I probably have 8 minutes left, and I'm thinking which one to show you. 1856 was a wine label that looked like this. And this, at the time I was living in Mallorca, and these guys, it's one of the biggest wineries in Mallorca, and they said, we have a problem, because we have this wine. This is a very good wine, but it's not selling. It's not selling. We need a strategy. We need a new name. Can you please go and do something about this? Because that was the brief. So we knew of a place in Mallorca, in the center of the island. Sorry, the island and the city of Palma de Mallorca. But we had never really engaged with them. But we knew there was a printer in there, so we go in and speak to the guys and say, can we print stuff with you? And they said, yeah, of course. Just bring whatever it is you want us to print, and we'll sort it out. So we take some of my father's letters from his publishing house, and pack all these letters together, take them to Roberto, who ran this printing press, and Roberto had to call his father in turn, because this machine here, and Matthew Carter would probably know what machine this is. I know it was a German machine, but I can't remember the exact name. And they had to call to get some parts brought from Germany, because the machine hadn't been used in over 60 years. When the press started working, Roberto's father started crying because he was so touched. It hadn't been used in a long time, and this is what we did. Basically just an excuse to print a big typographic poster, but that we called the wine 1856 because it was the 60th anniversary of the winery, and the wine label is this one. In the end, they started selling a lot of it, and sometimes people say that design and typography don't work. They sold a lot, and they were happy clients, and they paid they paid as well, which is always a plus. I was going to say something I forgot. Anyway, okay, how time? Okay, cool. One more, if there's time. So La Cigarrera, this is an interesting story. La Cigarrera is the old tobacco factory in Seville. It's this building. It's one of the largest public buildings after El Escorial in Madrid, in Spain. It's enormous. And this is where they made tobacco for many, many, many years. And that building over there, where is it? Here, just across the river, that kind of there. I don't have okay, there. That's the other, so that's where they moved in the 1950s. So this was built in the 18th century. It took a long time to build, as you can imagine. And then they eventually moved there when tobacco wasn't such a big, when sales dropped. The amazing thing of this place is, one of the many amazing things is that they hired mostly women. Because apparently, and there's a moment in which they had 12,000 women working in the tobacco factory rolling cigarettes. And this is, anyway, it's quite incredible. This was in the late 19th century and early 20th century. And then we did a lot of research about this. This was a pitch, by the way. So, what you see here is mock-ups, not the real thing. I just wanted to make a note of that. Pablo de Olavide is this guy in our research. He's incredible. He was a Peruvian. I won't tell his entire story, but he was a Peruvian guy that moved to Seville in the 18th century, and he revolutionized Seville. Seville at the time was almost like a small medieval city. And what he did was he started by numbering, kind of creating the basis for a city, numbering the houses. So the signage in the city is all thanks to Pablo de Olavide. And they had this, peculiar A's, and you guys, master typographers probably know a lot more than I do of this thing, but we couldn't really find a lot of information online on these things, besides that they're Celtic in origin, but who knows about this? Okay, oh wow, from here. See? I'm so glad I included this. We can talk about this later. Okay. Gosh, okay, it's gonna make this entire project worthless after. But we saw these letters. So you walk around Seville and you can see they call them the Olavide tiles. They're absolutely gorgeous. So he started numbering the neighborhoods. This manzana means neighborhood in Spanish, so from neighborhoods, streets, and also home numbers. So you can find home number 1, home number 2, home number 3. It's, in the original Seville houses. Then we found this sign in a corner around the Estanco. It's not as old as we wished it was, but still, it's the most photographed sign of when you Google Tabacalera, the old factory. So we extracted this Byzantine, civilian Sevilla letter, and we redrew it. And then we called the place, and we thought this was a great name for the place, La Cigarrera. La Cigarrera in Spanish means, these women that rolled cigarettes were called Las Cigarreras because they're the tobacco rollers. So we called the place La Cigarrera as a homage to this, and it was a new art center, which, by the way, is now being built by Kengo Kuma, the architects. But this was a pitch we did 4 years ago, more or less. And now they called it the Cube, sadly, because I think La Cigarrera is a much better name than the Cube. So anyway, by simply changing, one letter, it had so much personality. And what we wanted was for this to be to have its own percent, so that when you read anything composed in this, for example, you could write any letter, you would automatically know that it's in La Cigarrera without the name La Cigarrera to even have to appear there, right, in the art center. So names of artists, Ai Weiwei, and yeah, this is what we showed the clients at the time, a new cultural space in Seville, and then we just we created these posters to show how the system would work. But super simple. It's just really swapping an A for an A, for the other A, for the Byzantine A. And the signage and more posters. So really fun project. Okay. Yeah? Okay, no, okay, last one, because there's 6, I don't have time. I'll be super fast. Last, yeah, yeah, you do, but no, it's not. No, thank you, but no. Okay, last one. It's not many slides. The Stavro Center for Strings in Cremona, in Italy, is where the Antoni Stradivari. You know the Stradivari violins. It's a city with an incredible musical tradition, and this is Palazzo Stauffer, the Stauffer Palace, and it's the only school in the world that teaches it is specialized in teaching only 4 instruments, which I'll show you now. And we were called in to redesign the center, and we worked together with the architect Sergio Pininfarina, who were doing state-of-the-art installations inside this palace. So it was fully remade to be able to accommodate the best sound and all of that. So 4 instruments: violin, viola, cello, and double bass. This is the only place on planet Earth that can only teach these that teaches these 4 instruments. And what they all have in common is that they have 1, 2, 3, 4 chords. So that's it. 4 instruments, 4 chords, which was a great starting point, right, for us designers. So what we did was very, very simple. 4 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we had this strong monogram. We got here after a lot of iterations. That it was the 5th route that we showed. Actually, the first one, but then it became the 5th, and then we reverted to this. But what we liked was that it also recreated this violin kind of vibration movements. So we have the monogram, and we applied it to lots of other things. What part of the brief was to make classical music contemporary and exciting for younger, for younger audiences, because classical music is often seen as this boring, thing, and we just wanted to make it more exciting. How do we do that? By adding lots of color. But also we created a system where we could use these, the 5, no, it has grotesque, the 5, see, I remember this typeface. We could make an alphabet with them. These are some of the posters, and that's it. That's really it. I don't think there's any much. We had to work with some of the images they had as well, such as these. So and then we made duotones just to make them more equal. And that is that is my last project. There's one at the end that is called "And More," and I wanted to just say that, as I said at the beginning, how can you do more with less, right? And for me, it's more about less, because less really is more. Thank you very much. Thank you.